So in this episode of how to prepare your Honda Goldwing for a long distance trip. Now, my question that I have to the viewers is, what is the number one reason that will cause you to have a breakdown on the side of the road? That number one reason would be your tires. I've found over the years that having bad tires on your motorcycle will be the fastest thing that will put you down on the side of the road. So in this episode of how to prepare your Honda Goldwing for a long distance trip, we're going to get into the tires and also inspecting the brakes.
Goldwing Rider, a shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who is fearless. A young loner on a crusade to champion the cause in a world of reckless automobiles. These are my motovlogs.
So in this episode of the video, we're going to get into inspecting the tires on this Honda Goldwing, and we're going to inspect the brakes on this Honda Goldwing. I already have the Honda Goldwing secured and lifted off the ground to my pit bull lift. If you do not have a lift for your motorcycle, then you can just place your Honda Goldwing on the center stand. Looking underneath the Honda Goldwing, I'm going to remove the rear wheel by using my braking bar and my 19mm deep well socket. And I'm just going to break the wheel lugs, break them free. Makes it easier when you're using a braking bar. You do not have to take off the rear wheel to inspect the back tire, but I'm going to be replacing my rear tire and putting on a brand new tire for this Honda Goldwing. I have the wheel lugs removed. Now I can remove the rear wheel. Take off my Centromatic wheel balancer. And now I can slide the rear wheel from underneath the Honda Goldwing. I have the rear wheel from underneath the Honda Goldwing. Dramatic wheel balancer. So if you guys are wondering which tire that I'm taking cross country, I'm going to be testing out this new Pirelli P7 CINTURATO. If necessary, I'm going to replace the brake pads. I have some brand new Honda OEM brake pads for the rear, and I also have some new brake pads for the front. I will include a link in the description where you guys can pick up the brake pad sets for this style Honda Goldwing. Anytime that you remove your wheels from the Honda Goldwing, it's always good to do a brake inspection. It will be foolish to replace your tires and not inspect your brakes and replace those brakes if the brakes are worn. So anytime you remove the wheel, always inspect your brake pads. You're already there. If you take off that wheel, inspect those brake pads, and if they're worn, you want to remove those brake pads. You will be foolish to put thin brake pads back on your Honda Goldwing or leave those thin brake pads on your Honda Goldwing. So I have the rear wheel removed, and we're going to just inspect the rear caliper and the rear brake pads. I got some brake dust cleaner, got a couple cans of brake dust cleaner that I always keep around here in the shop, and also a pan to catch all of the dirty fluids from running down onto the ground. Keep a pan for that. I have on gloves and also a shop light so I can see. I got my brake dust cleaner, and I just want to spray underneath this rear wheel. Use copious amounts of brake dust cleaner. Don't be cheap with it. I mean, you gotta spray it good. You can't be cheap with it. There's nothing cheap about motorcycles. All that dirt and debris, this brake dust cleaner will clean it all out. All of that nasty, dried up oil. Oh yeah, those pads look real good. Dirty underneath, but the pads look good. So everything looks good. And it's also a good time to inspect the thickness of the rotor according to the service manual. Rotor, I've inspected the thickness of the brake pads. I've cleaned off any road grime. Everything looks good. And now we can get into changing out the rear tire from the Bridgestone Drive Guard Run Flat, and I'm gonna put back the Pirelli Cinturato P7. Now that wheel is off. Still got some pretty good tread left on it, but we're gonna change it out. Just to give you guys an idea how much rubber is on that Pirelli. Look at those deep grooves. If you look at a regular motorcycle tire, you don't have as many deep grooves. It's great, but it don't last long. release the tire. There's my 2 pops. That's the thing I like about chrome, is that it's easier to clean. Put on my 5 lug nuts. Like I said, you don't need an elaborate lift to do an underneath inspection. But if you're going to take off the wheels, make sure you check those brake pads. I mean, you put in this much work taking off of the wheel. No sense of cheating yourself when it comes to doing the rear brakes. So far, so good. So in this portion of the front wheel inspection, I'm not going to take off the front wheel or remove the brake pads because I had the bike serviced earlier this year at the beginning of spring. I put in new brake pads, and also I changed out the bearings in this wheel. But when you're doing an inspection, you want to make sure that you check your tire pressure when the tire is cold. That's 36. I'm gonna run it up a little bit. Check it when it's cold. Also, you want to check your tire. Make sure that your tires are good. Remember, tires will put you down on the road faster than anything else. You also want to check your brake pads. Make sure your brake pads are good. When you got the bike up, look for oil leaks up underneath the forks. Sometimes your fork seals can leak. When your fork seals are leaking, you'll see oil on the ground if it's not coming from the caliper. So be sure to check for oil leaks. And I highly recommend going back with Honda OEM brake pads. I always keep brake pads on the shelf. It's best to be proactive than to be reactive. Check all of those things, verify that all of that is good. If your tires are good, if your air pressure is good, if your brake pads are good, if your fork seals are not leaking, everything is good. You can also check you want to check the thickness of your brake discs and make sure that they meet the OEM specifications. And once you check those things on the front end of the Honda Goldwing, that's pretty much it. So this is going to conclude the episode of the inspection of the wheels and the brakes. I will include a link in the description of the video if you need step-by-step instructions on how to remove the front wheel and also how to put in brakes. I'll include a link in the video for the sake of time if you need to know how to take off that wheel and put in brakes. Well, anyway, if you guys have any questions or any comments, feel free to put them down in the comment section below. If you like this video, click the like button. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned where we get into inspecting the trailer. The more things that you inspect, the less chances of something happening on the road, delaying your trip, and costing you thousands of dollars on the road. That's why they call it highway robbery. The time to work on your bike is when you're not riding. A lot of riders wait until it's time to ride to start working on their bike. That is the worst time to work on your bike. Always work on your bike in your downtime when you're not riding. On ride day is ride day. When you're not riding, that's fix it day. Well, anyway, drop a comment, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned. We'll see you later out here in the Caliente garage.